Hello everyone and welcome to Kernel of Wisdom's Mindful Moments. I'm Joelle and today we're going to talk about how to love yourself. Give yourself a great big hug there. Just start it off that way. Why not? So today we are continuing with our series on how to trust yourself by talking a little bit about how to love yourself, because it's a really important component. For some of you, you might feel pretty down on yourself, and so hopefully this video can help. For others, you might not be sure whether you love yourself or not, or you might feel pretty sure that you like yourself enough, but either way I find there's usually room for improvement. So why don't we walk through the following questions to see if there's still some stuff that you can do. First, when you make a mistake, do you ever get kind of hard on yourself? Start to blame yourself or think of all the different things that you could have done differently or all the ways that you had done things wrong? 2, are you aware of your inner critic, that negative voice in your head that tells you mean things about yourself? 3, do you worry what other people think about you? 4, do you ever feel lonely when you're by yourself? 5, are you ever dismissive of your feelings and tell yourself you shouldn't feel that way, that it's silly to feel that way? 6, are there aspects of yourself that you'd like to change? 7, do you wish aspects of yourself were more like somebody else? And 8th, and finally, do you ever feel scared to act 100% yourself in any context? These are things that all of us do, myself included. It's part of living in a civilized society where we are taught that we need to monitor ourselves and control ourselves in order to act appropriately with others, in order to be accepted, which is fine, but we end up worrying about ourselves a lot. We become our own toughest critics. Now, this is made trickier because we also live in a society where we're taught that it's good to be critical of yourself. We're taught that loving yourself is too proud and that we should be humble. And I kind of think that's bull. Like, I definitely think that we should all act like we're equals. Everybody is equal and we shouldn't act like we're better than anybody else. But I think it's good to be proud of yourself, to be proud of who you are and all that you do, and that you treat yourself like you're an equal to other people too. Check in and notice if there's any part of yourself, even a tiny little part, that's actually afraid to love yourself. Is there any part of you that worries even a little bit that if you love yourself, you'll become too full of yourself, too arrogant or proud, and then people won't like you? And if there is, I'd like you to just acknowledge it and put it aside for the moment to keep listening. Okay, so now let's play with the idea that it is absolutely fine to love yourself. In fact, it is a great thing for both you and the world if you do. Keep in mind that we teach others how to treat us, so if we don't love ourselves, who else is going to? And if others don't love themselves, how are we ever going to be able to show them enough love and respect as well? How amazing would it be if you could become your own best friend, that any time that you needed help, that you needed to be soothed and comforted, that you needed to feel a deep sense of love, that you could give that to yourself. This is why loving yourself is so important to trusting yourself. When you love yourself, you can be there for you. It doesn't mean that you can't also ask others for help and accept that love from them as well. But they are never going to be able to fully give you the love that you need unless you can love yourself first. Well, hopefully you're starting to feel more open to loving yourself, but it's still easier said than done. So how do you actually do it? How do you actually start to love yourself more? Here are some activities and suggestions that I have to start with. First, there are a few awesome journaling activities that I love for this. Grab a journal and make sure you leave lots of time. And what I'd like you to do is to actually journal out all the things that you do like about yourself, or that you do love about yourself. So all those awesome qualities that you have, all the parts of your body that you actually really like, anything that you've accomplished, anything that you tend to think or do that you think is really cool. just all the great things about yourself. Once you get started, it'll really start to flow, and just let it flow. Try not to think too much about it. Just create the longest list you absolutely can about all the things that you do, like, and love about yourself. The next list I want you to create is a list of the things that you don't like about yourself, about your personality or your body or your behavior or the way that you think that you would like to change or that you kind of get down on yourself about. And I want you to write them all out. Again, write as many as you can actually think of. And then the next thing I want you to do is go back to each of those items and actually think about what the positive aspects of those are. Let's say I write down that I don't like my stomach. I wish it was flatter and I wish I had a six-pack. Well, I could look at the positive aspect of that and realize that maybe my stomach isn't that bad, and actually it makes me look more average. I look like most other girls do, and so instead of being some unachievable, perfect looking girl, maybe it's nice that I'm more just average and approachable and more relatable because of that. You may really have to stretch your thinking and think a bit out of the box for this one, but I promise you there'll be something. The only thing that I ask is that whatever positive aspect you come up with, that you actually believe it, that you don't make up something that you don't really believe. It may take a bit of soul searching, but it's totally worth it, even if it takes a few days to complete the list. In the end, hopefully you'll start to see that you have a lot of great qualities, and that even the qualities that you don't particularly love yet aren't actually that bad, that there's a lot of good in those negative qualities as well. All right, next activity on the list is to spend some time actually just following your joy. And it may be that you need to set aside a week or a couple weeks where you make this a specific focus, where you decide that you are just gonna do the stuff that makes you feel good, that makes you feel joyful and happy. Remember that our feelings are our teachers, so stuff that makes you feel joy is actually trying to show you something about who you are. Those are the things that allow your best, most positive qualities come through. If you feel that joy, it means there's an aspect of it that actually resonates deeply within you. So if you can keep doing that, you're going to become more yourself and keep loving yourself and all that you can do that much more. And the real trick with this one is not to worry too much about criticisms from other people. If people criticize you for stuff that makes you happy, it's usually because there's a lot of people out there who struggle to love themselves too. And it's really a lot easier to bring other people down than it is to build yourself up and learn to love yourself. So if somebody's criticizing you for something that makes you feel good, that makes you feel happy, that makes you feel fulfilled, it's usually so much more a reflection on who they are and what they're struggling with than it is about you. Now, of course, one of the other ways that you can cultivate more love for yourself is through meditation. I'm going to be posting a meditation to help you love yourself and work with some of the activities we've been talking about here. Somewhere here, there'll be a link to it. And otherwise, a great practice that you can incorporate into your seated meditations is by adding even just 5 minutes of metta meditation at the end of every time you sit. So what is metta? So metta is a love and kindness meditation where you typically repeat really loving, kind, compassionate phrases toward yourself or towards others. So even if you want to use the rest of your time sitting to work on something else, if you want to incorporate metta into the last 5 minutes of your mindfulness meditation, here are some of the phrases that I personally use. You can direct them at yourself or towards others, but since we're working on self-love today, I'm going to phrase them as if you'd be directing them to yourself. So may I be happy. May I be healthy and safe. May I love and accept myself just the way I am. May I be free from suffering, and may I be an example of peace. Sending yourself those loving, kind, positive intentions can help you see how hard you've been on yourself most of the time. And it's a really great way to start actively practicing being more kind to yourself. So it's an awesome practice to incorporate, and it brings me to my next exercise. So the next exercise I call Catch Your Critic. And your inner critic is that negative little voice in your head that fills you with all these feelings of self-doubt. Yes, we all have one. And it typically says something like, oh, that was stupid, why did you say that? oh, don't do that, Joelle, they think you're an idiot. Or things like, you're gonna fail, don't even try, that's way above you. Or, oh, how do they know so much? You never know anything, you never have anything good to say. It has lots of those types of criticisms and many, many more. And it's odd because we say so many of these really mean things to ourselves, but can you imagine ever actually saying those things out loud to another person? We would never treat another person that way, so why do we say some of that stuff to ourselves? It really does not help you build more trust for yourself if you are the one who is constantly attacking yourself, if you are the meanest person to yourself, and if you really are the one who puts yourself down the most. So to get better at this, take your journal out again, and this time I want you to make a list of all your common triggers, of situations that you tend to be in when you notice that inner critic kick up the most. It might be when you're trying something new. It might be when you're out in a group of people. It might be when you're meeting someone new. It might be when you're talking in front of class or when you're taking a test, or it might be all of those things. Think of all the times that you tend to get stressed and worried and critical of yourself. And once you've written out that list, you'll hopefully be a lot more aware of those trigger situations, so that when you're in one of those situations the next time and your inner critic starts to chime in, you can just tell it to shut up. Just literally don't listen to it. You may chirp away in the back of your mind, but don't let it stop you, and don't let that inner critic dictate who you are going to be. The more that you choose to ignore that critic, rather than allowing yourselves to continue down that thought pattern, the more you're going to catch your critic and stop attacking yourself in those situations. You can counteract your critic by reminding yourself of all the times that you did succeed, all those times that you did make a new friend, when people really did like what you had to say, or when you did well on the test, or where you remained calm under pressure, or when trying something new brought you a whole new reward, when you found something new that you loved, or that you really were good at, or that you really enjoyed. Essentially, the only way to become your own best friend is to start treating yourself like you would a friend. So when you really need the support, when you're nervous and afraid and unsure, instead of attacking yourself, you start to support yourself. You start to remind yourself of all the awesome qualities that you have and all the good that you can do and how really great you are. Last but not least, the final activity is just to be with yourself in times that you really need it. No matter how much you love yourself and no matter how good things go one moment, there are going to be times that you're going to feel down, that you're going to feel sad or angry or even depressed or scared. And that's okay, that's part of human nature. But far too often in these times, we start to blame ourselves, we start to tell ourselves that we did something wrong and that it's our own fault or that it's because we're not good enough. And what I'd ask you to try and do is to not give in to that. So how do you be with those kinds of feelings? When you're not feeling great, just try and take a few moments to actually just notice the sensations of those feelings. Describe them a way that a poet might. Try and describe whether they're prickly and hard or heavy and round. Are they smooth or do they feel like static? Are they wide or are they narrow? You'll start to remove some of your feelings about the feelings and actually just allow you to be with the feeling itself. Now you can start to learn from it. You can put a hand wherever you feel the feeling the strongest and just ask that space in your body. What is it that you're trying to teach me? What do I need to learn from this situation? And you're going to learn to trust yourself because you know that you will be there for you. You won't abandon yourself or start to turn on yourself when things go wrong. That you're willing to just sit with yourself, listen, and learn from whatever it is that you need to learn. If you have trouble just being with those difficult feelings, I do have a meditation on the channel to help. I will post a link to it right here, and you can use that to help you sort through those feelings until you are able to do it by yourself. Well, those activities should help you at least start to love yourself more. I am so excited for the journey ahead of you, and I hope you have a ton of fun exploring every amazing aspect of who you are and what makes you a unique, awesome individual on this earth. If If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comment box below. And otherwise, I hope you have a great day and happy meditating.